Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 535.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because when it comes down to it, many of us right now, you listening to my voice, you are using a whole bunch of technology that, as some would say, entering into its most mature stage. In fact, many would say we're not even at everything that it could possibly do because, well, we're still discovering new ways of using it. I mean, just think about it. You are listening to my voice probably on a small rectangular device while you're on the treadmill, walking your dog, maybe even changing your kid's diaper. At the end of the day, what's interesting is how far we can reach, how much the internet has brought together to allow all of us to interact, to connect, and, well, just to be social. Here's the thing. I have with me today a guest who's been kind of at the center of being able to help you and I communicate in different ways, whether that be through audio and definitely through video. He spent a significant amount of time over at Microsoft and was in the department, the Windows Entertainment Division, that now employs 40,000 people. But what's interesting today is that you and I both know we spend a whole lot of time on social media. You and I both know that sometimes we see a lot of ads and we wonder, how do they know what I am interested in? How on earth do they know how to actually show me that particular one? And in fact, if you have a business, you're probably trying to figure out where your audience is and how to make that work and what's the best way to go out there and reach them. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think today we're going to learn a little bit more about exactly that. I have with me none other than Patrick McKenna. He's the founder and CEO of Strike Social. Now, what's interesting is that they use some high-tech things like machine learning, data science. Think about that. That means they're not only are they very smart, but they're using their intelligence in smart ways. And most importantly, it's designed to help you and I save money, reach our target markets, and most importantly, develop the best customer experience possible. So let's get ready to listen, learn, and love Patrick McKenna. Patrick, how you doing?
I'm good, Jay. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here because, well, what you do is of extreme interest to me, and I know it's got to be of extreme interest to nearly everyone listening because we're always trying to reach our customers. Now, before we get too far into it, I have to ask you the exact same question I tend to ask everybody the first time that they're here. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, like Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, etc. And I think that's because entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. For example, if you think about it, as an entrepreneur, occasionally I can envision myself running around town using our products and services and saving customers one sale at a time. And yes, I'm probably wearing a cape and tights at that moment. Also, though, like a superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. You think about Spider-Man, for example. There was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing. And then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers he's got a superhuman ability, and now has to choose if he's going to use it for good or for evil. So my question to you is as follows. Before working with brands like Xbox, Mattel, Samsung, Bose, before Strike Social, before working at Microsoft, before everything we know you for today, what we want to know is, who is Patrick McKenna?
Who is Patrick McKenna? From a superhero standpoint,
sure, that's fine too. If one strikes you, that works too.
I think I'd probably be most comfortable in Batman's skin.
Got it.
Yeah, I like that he likes to learn and he has all these gadgets and he's got people that can help him, build those gadgets to make him better. And I think that would sort of emulate what I try to do.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So take us on this journey. How did you go from Bruce Wayne to Batman? And we know you as Batman today, but we want to know the origins of your Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne to Batman. Just, more than anything, I would say curiosity. I mean, I'm just a very curious person. And, you sort of hear the jack of all trades, comment when you're younger and how you got to focus and laser in on one thing. And I think that happens as you get more experience. You just know more about specific things that you've had to dig deeper and deeper into. But in the beginning, that curiosity is sort of that driver for me. I definitely like to know a lot about a lot of things. So,
what were some of the earliest recollections that you can remember, or what would your mom say when, if we were talking to her? So like, what were some of the things that she would say that, man, yeah, Patrick was always into something and trying to learn more things? What would she tell us?
Well, I think she would say that I was aloof as a kid. I would, remember I got lost in Hawaii one time. I was just staring at a fish pond of koi and, the rest of the family took off and I was still there, I guess it would just be, it was just always in sort of, thought mode, I guess. And I guess that comes off as aloof when you're a parent. So
no doubt. Okay. So you're in your own world. So you've been creating your own world from the beginning. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think that's accurate for sure.
Got it. So the world of the internet, when did that come to you and go, oh, this is where I belong? How did you figure that out?
Yeah. I bought a computer. I started hanging out with these guys who owned a little computer shop. This is back in 94.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just really curious about computers in general. My dad got a PC, back in the really early 90s, maybe late 80s. My next door neighbor got one. I would play video games on his Mac, and I would do, homework and things on, I guess this is mid 80s, early 80s maybe. And so I was just always curious about that. And then I met these guys in Seattle, and they had a little computer shop, and I watched them put hard drives in computers and things. So I really got my hands inside the computer. And then once I did that, I learned about the internet and got online and started doing all the things that you do when you first get online. You start surfing around and trying to see what's interesting out there. But that was really it. I mean, I really just got my hands into a box and was swapping out hard drives and things like that. So it's probably a little geeky, but I'm not a technical guy like that. So it sort of ended there with building a few machines and then being like, I'm going to let Dell do this or Gateway.
Right. They're better at it. And I get that. I get that. Do you realize that right now, you and I, there are people listening to us who have no idea what it's like they've only known the internet. They've never not known that the internet was possible. Like you and I, we can remember there was a no internet stage and then there was internet.
Well, I say this to my younger employees all the time. I'm like, what was it like going to school with the internet? And they just look at me like I'm from Mars, They just and they're like, what? Yes. What was it like going to school without the internet? I'm like, well, we had books and it was hard. We didn't have the answers, So.
Exactly. That have you seen an encyclopedia ever?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just asking.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right? All of those things. It is what it is. So what takes this curiosity with, computers into how do you end up at Microsoft exactly?
Yeah. So I was I was an entrepreneur. I started in the telco industry, and then I started my own, they call it a switchless reseller. So I started selling telecommunications services.
Mm.
And when the internet came out, we were doing, IP fax. So we had an IP fax solution. So I started kind of getting myself immersed in being my own boss and having a company. And we sold that company pretty early because we were just burnt out on that industry. And then I got into a small startup company that was doing, it was just way before its time, but it was doing like HR and training. And so HR and training videos on the internet. So we were using Microsoft's Windows Media Player and and some of their technology to go in and do, corporate training and so you would have that HR portal. And, it was just one of those things where companies they would rather at that time bring in an expert and have them, train their employees about how to be safe at work and about harassment and things like that. There wasn't this internal area where they had everything in one spot. And Microsoft noticed what we were doing, and we were sort of in the forefront of Windows Media, and they just kind of snapped up our team. They took 4 of us. We didn't get the second round of funding, so we were kind of done anyway. But we had built a relationship with the people over at Microsoft on that team, and it was really small. And that's how I ended up over there.
Interesting. Now, for those of you wondering, faxes is what we did long before email.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, there's so many things. They're like, what did he say? There's somebody who went and looked up IP fax. What's that? And I just wanted to save them some time. But I have a question. If you were working with, if you're working with video long before YouTube, long before broadband, long before all the stuff that makes video convenient, how did you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, again, like Microsoft was on the bleeding edge of that too. So there was one player in the market, real player. People,
I remember them.
Yeah, people probably aren't gonna, remember that there was a battle over which audio or video codec or format was going to win. And the fear over at Microsoft at the time was that the video and audio was going to be the new desktop of your computer. So we wanted to make sure that we were there and in people's living rooms and things like that. So we went to battle with those guys, and looking back, and during that period, that's when things started to get really tough from an antitrust standpoint for Big Blue. So that was kind of like, okay, you did this with Explorer, now you're doing it again with audio and video technology. We had an unfair competitive advantage. We had the operating system, and we could ship with the operating system. So that was kind of we were sort of the beginning of the end of Bill over there at Microsoft. Yeah.
I like this. This is great because I mean it's one thing to have technology, and many people listening right now that we've just taken it for granted. How did it get here? Was there a battle? Hearing the struggle. I find it interesting because I know during that time I was just using the technology. I didn't really think about who's fighting over a codec right now. But that's kind of what you guys were out to do for all the right reasons. Now, you've since then you've sold the company and all this other stuff, and I'm curious because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially those listening right now, they're working to build their business. Their business is maybe in the 7-8 figure range, and now they're looking for that exit. You found the exit, but you didn't stay exited. You found something else to do. Why was that?
Well, I mean, the first exit that I had, I mean, if you want to call it that, this was sort of before the big multiples. Like
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like I wasn't in a SaaS business or,
Sure.
we'd only been at it for a couple of years. I'm proud to say that it was, one of the fastest growing companies in the state of Washington. We built it quickly, and we were just at a point where we were burnt out, and that business is still going. It's called WCI Telecommunications, and it's up in Seattle.
Oh,
And,
cool.
I haven't paid much attention, but they're still around. They've took a business that, I started I was probably 25. And it's still going. I'm 52 in September. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we put the bones together and that we found someone who was young and hungry and wanted to go take it to the next level. I'm really happy for him.
Got it.
Yeah. Did I answer your question, Jay?
Well, no, it's not that. I'm just, what I'm looking for is, a lot of people, when they look for the exit and go, cool, once I'm there, then I can relax and do nothing.
No.
But yet there was something else driving you, and I'm curious to know what that was or is.
Yeah.
For that matter.
Yeah. I mean, I think curiosity, but I wasn't it was necessity too, right? I needed to work.
What do you mean by needed to work?
Well, I wasn't in a position when I sold the business to retire.
Got it.
I had someone a while ago talk to me about this. Let's call it a mini life coach. About what you would do in retirement. Because I was, that's been a topic of conversation for the last couple of years for me. And I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
You don't want to do retirement.
Yeah, I just don't.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I have to be going pretty hard. Now I do like to decompress at times, and there are times when you wish that the business would go away for a while, but you don't get that either. But I can't play golf every day. I can't, you know what I mean? I can't just go to the gym and have a nice lunch and then wait for dinner and put an activity in between there. I have to be, my mind has to be working on some sort of problem.
100%. About 6 years ago, I tried my hand at exactly what you're talking about in terms of retirement. And I realized I was too young, had too much energy, and there was literally nothing to do because I was bored. Like, I got nobody to play with. This is not fun. What am I going to do? And I had to find something else too. So I 100% understand. So now, from this standpoint, you could have chosen anything. What is it about social media that you go, yeah, this is what I'm going to do? Hello there, entrepreneur. This is Jay Massey, and what I want to say to you is that the number one mistake that I have ever made in business, number one, has been waiting too long to do the books, waiting too long to get the bookkeepers, the accountants, the CPAs, the CFOs involved, and I don't want you to make that same mistake. That mistake cost me over 6 figures, and now for a significant discount, you have the ability to get your books together using FreshBooks. So what I want you to do is I want you to go over to gofreshbooks.com/cashflow diary. Again, that's gofreshbooks.com/cashflow diary. FreshBooks is the easy to use software designed to help you, the small business owner, the freelancer, get organized and save time on invoicing, getting paid faster, keeping those books in order so that it becomes a bonus for you to do your taxes as opposed to a burden. Go over to gofreshbooks.com/cashflow diary and get started today. And now let's get back to the rest of the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think, going back to the Microsoft part, so we were really on the bleeding edge there. Like, we were trying to develop a market that was only going to get developed as broadband and high-speed internet got to more homes.
You were way ahead.
Yeah, we're talking. So we were working with the audio, companies out there. There was like On Radio, and those were sort of like the first ones that were really rolling up stations and things like that, so that people could play music on their laptops. And then this was, to put it in context, this is Napster days, before a real music service came out, and that was iTunes. And so all of those things sort of progressed, where we are, because the bandwidth providers realized that they could sell high speed, and people would buy it because they wanted to watch audio or listen to audio or watch video on their computers. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, because this was all very hard to explain, back in 1997. And he's like, well, why do I need high definition on my TV? My TV works. And because I was telling him, he's like, what do you do? And I remember I was playing golf with him and his partner, and I was like, well, one day, Dad, you're going to turn your TV on and it's going to be in high definition. And he's like, well, what's wrong with my TV? So that's where this came from.
Yes.
The video on your computer would play in a 2-inch by 1-inch,
those
square.
boxes were so small.
Yeah, and I remember one time I did a business development deal where we were blowing up the Kingdome, and I was on my computer. It was in the morning, and I'm staring at the Kingdome blowing up on my computer while it's blowing up behind me. All I had to do was turn around and actually see the live event.
Right.
My computer to make sure that it went off okay. And it was just it was a crazy time. So how did I get into social media? So that was a long journey. YouTube sort of proved, with the reduction in the cost of bandwidth, because remember, serving video over the internet was really expensive at the time. So it was very hard to build a business model there.
Right.
And YouTube was sort of a place that created a real, I would guess, just burst of speed into video on your computer. And they monetized that through advertising. And I knew a lot about video. I had been a 12-year march at Microsoft, and it was finally coming around to actually having a business model. So that's how I got into it. I approached Google and became a partner of theirs. I'm like, hey, I think this is going to be really big, and sort of the rest is kind of history on that. Well, I guess it's not history because we're still going. So
right now
we're writing history in that moment.
Totally understood. Well, you've been behind the scenes and involved for quite some time on something that many of us, like I was saying earlier, I mean, there are people right now who are streaming this audio real time on Spotify or something of that nature, and they have no clue what it takes to have that infrastructure necessary just to get this audio file to be able to do that, or a video file to be able to do that. And
that's right.
And that's literally been your wheelhouse. Now,
yep.
And I find that interesting in and of itself. Now, with that being said, though, today, you guys over there at Strike Social are specifically, or seem to be specifically, helping with, like, as I was saying earlier, machine learning and AI and using this in ways that are supposedly making a better internet for us. It sounds like that's what it feels like. At least that's what I believe your mission is kind of do. Yes, it's through ads, and some people I hate ads everywhere, but I have a feeling that you guys have a different take on that.
Well, I hate ads too. I mean, I'm not,
okay.
I'm not gonna,
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't sit there and just consume ads all day long. But that's what pays for the innovation, right? And when you talk about machine learning and advertising and the application of machine learning and advertising, you're right. Like, it is about delivering something that you have interest in, right? If I deliver,
supposed to be something I have interest in.
Yes, and you know what, that's part of the problem with ads, right? Like, part of the problem is when you're not doing that and you're just really annoyed. But the idea of getting, machine learning behind advertising, we were really early in that regard. And just the way that we, built the company was all about, okay, so I don't want to have 1,000 people over here. HR is a huge expense. Employee costs are really 80 to 90% of your business in most cases.
Right.
It's no different over here. But yeah, I think it's important to, if you're not building process in automation and using a lot of the software and technology that's out there and available to you, and also building your own, then I think you're really, I don't think you're built to last, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So
I get
that's
that.
what we do. Yeah.
So for those that are, listening and just trying to get a handle on it, if I was to ask you, what does Strike Social do? What would be the quick 2-sentence version so that they can go, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, we help large organizations, through video advertising, reach their audience. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Yep. And we sell mostly to really large agencies. They call them the holding company. There's 4 major holding companies. And within those holding companies, they'll have, 3,000 plus agencies that are global, globally situated around the world. So.
Got it. Now, for those that are wondering, how is it that machine learning, how is it helping you guys do and deliver, this experience that you're trying to after? What exactly is the machine learning about the user?
Yeah. So what we do is we look at the returns, right? So we're processing a lot of advertising returns. So if I'm reaching you, Jay, and you're not interested in a type of ad, I know, with some confidence that based on the watch time or you clicking out of it or skipping it, that ad doesn't pertain to you, or you have the product already, or you're just not interested. So I won't retarget you with that advertisement. I got to find something else or a different brand or something like that. But that knowing who you are and what you like for my brand customers is really important. They don't want to serve ads to people who aren't interested because there's a cost to that. So they want to be really efficient about who they serve their ads to, when they serve them, how they serve them, and what that message looks like. All of those are signals that can be optimized. And that's what we do in our machine learning box.
And what I like about that is, well, honestly, it means that I don't ever see a Heineken ad because I've never drank alcohol in my entire life, But at the same time, what I do find interesting sometimes what I'll do is that I'll grab my wife's phone or use her and I'm like, man, when I'm on her phone or on her devices, it's like a completely different internet because I'm like, I don't see, there's just like no overlap. It's just really so different. How does, so I guess here's my question. How does a smaller company take advantage of this? Because the data sets required to be able to do this seem to me that they would be immense, like large. It would take so much data just to figure out who to serve and who not to serve, that in and of itself is cost prohibitive to the average entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why you use somebody like us, right? Because what a lot of companies do, and some of these are very large companies, data science is something that I think gets thrown out a lot, and I don't think people understand it that well.
Okay.
Data science is not, from a marketing perspective, we'll see a business intelligence department that will assist the marketing team internally to look at like customer retention and which audiences they think are working and buying and clicking and all of those things. And they'll have all that stuff on a spreadsheet, and they'll do some analysis. This is you can't do this in Excel, what we're talking about. you know what I mean? Yes. Like it, and it's interesting because there are a lot of companies like, oh yeah, well, we have our analysts and maybe they're not data scientists, but this is what our data tells us. And it's like, look, you're looking at some signals, but you're not looking at near enough, and you don't have enough statistical significance here to really make a an informed decision. So getting companies to understand that is a little bit challenging, but you're right that it's a massive investment, and it's not an investment that you can start at, without having the data. So
Right.
you got to have the data, and you also have to put that data into a container and what they call like clean data. So it has to be stored in a way that can be in the future, once you've got enough of it, that you can start really processing that data. If it's not named properly, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. So there's a lot of confusion about that. I think it gets thrown out, and used a lot in advertising. But I really struggle sometimes with some companies like, look, you're not doing data science. You're doing some business intelligence on Excel. That's not it. So,
well, and let's be clear. Sometimes we're just doing the best we can with the resources that we've got, because this data science, yes, it seems relatively like, in the same way that the idea of streaming audio and video was new, the accessibility of data science is still a little bit beyond most entrepreneurs these days, I would say.
Oh, for sure, for their internal businesses, for sure. But there are lots of third-party companies that are heavily invested in technology, in data science, in artificial intelligence, that entrepreneurs should be taking advantage of, because you can sit there and build process in, let's just say your HR department or your sales department or whatever department you want. And you can get that in Salesforce, or you can, move into, some of these other applications. But there are plugins that are doing real, data science engineering and machine and learning intelligence that you can leverage, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just take advantage of the economy of scale and the investment that they've done and use it. You're going to perform better. You're going to be more efficient.
Interesting. So, and now this, again, this is personal question because I'm curious. When I've done research with companies like yours, et cetera, again, the cost is just beyond the scope of what we can do, because we're just not quite at that enterprise level. But I've often thought that, why don't they produce some version of reports or some sort of something that we could use at a smaller level? Why don't we see that?
Well, I think you will. I mean,
Okay.
I think that, for a company like mine right now, in the stage that it's in, it's less expensive, if you will, to go after the Fortune 1000 and up, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, going to the smaller companies, we sort of have to like let them be curious and find us, kind of thing. But we're looking for really large budgets, enterprise clients, because there is there's a onboarding and training that has to take place onto the tools, and all of that stuff takes human capital, and you want it to be worth your investment. But I think as time goes on, just like we are talking on the internet right now, and using Skype, which is a Microsoft product, which is interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
you just, that becomes ubiquitous, and it does move down the ladder. So.
Yeah, no, totally understood. And I guess really what I'm saying is, man, we need this information too, because if I can lower my CPL, if I can lower my cost per sale, if I want to lower, I mean, like the person who needs it, like the small business owner who is bootstrapping and trying to make use of technology in the biggest ways possible, we're like, man, what about us? I want to know, where my audience is. I want to be able to use all the platforms as efficiently as humanly possible. So I guess my question is, while we wait, what would you suggest we do?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're spending about $100,000 a month in advertising across social and search and places like that, you're in the wheelhouse to get third parties involved, in technology companies involved, even our company involved. When you're sort of under that, then it becomes an economy of scale type situation. The best thing that I could tell you to do, and this is gonna sound crazy, but you've got to find somebody who's really good on the platforms, that wants to join your company and help you grow. The challenge with that is you're only going to be as good as that person's knowledge, right? So what the AI and machine learning allows you to do is it allows you to scale across a lot of knowledge base and, coach algorithms to learn. And so you're not going to be as good, but you can be pretty good. And if you've got the right CACs and you've got the right return on investment, there's nothing better than being able to pull that lever and pull it hard and get those returns coming in. And once you get there, you've probably got a pretty solid business, and you could really scale it with someone like us.
Yeah. The most we've ever gotten to was around 40,000 a month, and that felt
really good.
Well, yeah, it still felt out of control. I was like, man, this is a lot going on. There was just so much to keep track of. And
sure.
It was definitely, it became this thing. It was its own separate little thing, just to manage.
It becomes a department almost. Right? Like depending on how many platforms you're leveraging at that point. And then the big challenge is, as you go from 40 to 50 or 40 to 80, it gets harder because you're spending more budget and you might be seeing a diminishing return line. And so what our company tries to do is make sure that curve, is sort of up and to the right. You don't want that, because that's what scares people. It's like, well, I can spend 10 a month, but if I spend 15, I'm not really getting the CAC I'm looking for. Right. So how do I, you know what I mean? As the solo entrepreneur or a team of 20 or 30, how do I make that continue to go up and to the right and keep my returns? That's when you really got to start looking for technology.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I mean, I'm like, I'm not a Netflix and Amazon. I can't go and lose money for 6 years,
right?
Just to gain market share. That doesn't quite work.
I don't like to do that either.
Right.
That stresses me out.
Yeah. It's like I need, but at the same time, because that what you just described is exactly what we saw, is the diminishing returns. And we're like, okay, so but what else do we do? There's clearly more people. We got to get in front of them. And it's always been this constant challenge of figuring that out. And go ahead.
You know what? That doesn't go away, Jay. I mean, it doesn't go away for
just
Coke.
Burst the bubble right there.
Yeah, it does. It just doesn't. You're going to be constantly battling diminishing return. But when you've got a team of experts in technology helping you, figure that out, you're going to be in a lot better spot. Everybody has their ideas of why I'm seeing a diminishing return. I'm working with a customer right now, and they did a creative change, and they also did and they did a creative change. They did the ads, they did the landing pages. They did, and then they, had a plan to increase their budget. And, when you start changing a bunch of things at once and things don't go your way, then you're unwinding back to, well, what is the cause? I don't know if it's the creative. I don't know if it's the increase in budget. I don't know if it's the audiences right now. So we have to go back in time and try and figure out and weight each one. It's probably, giving a professional opinion, it's probably part creative, part the budget increase, and part the audience, and, too much budget in that audience.
Right.
So, but you got to figure out what's what before you go, well, let's just test some different audiences. Right.
what's funny to me is and for me, this has always been my approach is I because the creative seems like the hardest thing to figure out for me personally when we've gone down this route, especially if we're talking video, which you guys are like all about. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. So we would always go just testing audience first because we were just trying to like, look, let's just hope that this one resonates with somebody because trying to test the creative is so expensive and it takes so long to figure out that right one, and it feels so precious. But so I guess my question is there a better way?
No, what you just described is how you should do it. I mean, you should go and test creative ideas into audiences for sure. I would always look on creative, like you're excited, right? Mm-hmm. You are like confident that this creative is better than your old creative and you're excited to get it out into the wild.
Right.
Don't delete your old creative. Okay? Don't. And there is going to be there should be a slight decrease in return when you're launching something new anyway. And then you can optimize that and you'll start to see, hopefully you start to see uplift. But if you don't, then you got to go rethink that piece of it. And there are a lot of great creative options out there. There are, YouTube and Instagram, and Snapchat to some degree. And these platforms have creators on them. Those guys that you hear about that are making, tens of millions of dollars being an influencer on YouTube or one of these other platforms, they're creators. They're actors.
Right.
They're editors. They're audio and video specialists, and they have a network of people that follow them. They can help you with that as well, and that'll help you scale. And once you find something good, you can put some media behind that and push that out there.
Man, I can talk about this all day. Because it I didn't realize it though when we got into the education space. This is what I decided to do, quote unquote, out of retirement, was to share what I knew and help other entrepreneurs. I didn't realize how challenging it would be to get the message. I didn't know that was part of it. So I've had to learn all of this from ground zero. But it's become the thing that I can just talk the most about, and I get a lot of excitement around, because when you get that campaign and it's like, oh, we did it. It's just this is great. It's so awesome. I mean, and you can just see it just feels great. And then of course, occasionally then you get this whole the creative gets tired and the numbers start going down. You're like, what's going on? But
there's creative exhaustion. We have those tools. But yeah, Jay, like what I was saying is, you're an influencer. You're in this. You probably are an editor and an audio specialist, and you've got a network of people that listen to you and follow you and like to hear from you. And, you'd probably be really, really good at this. You'd probably be really good at what I do. So, I love talking to you guys because, you end up being a jack of all trades, and I love sort of being that guy too.
Yeah. Totally understood. Now, for those that have listened this far and have enjoyed the conversation, the trip down memory lane and everything else that we've done, what's going to be the best way, if they want to find out more information about you guys, what you're up to, track you down, what's going to be the best way for them to find you?
Sure. Strikesocial.com is where you can read more about what we do. We've got a lot of, resources on the site that'll help you understand the different platforms, and Snapchat and Pinterest and Facebook and YouTube and that stuff. LinkedIn. So there's a lot of resources up there. We put a lot of, our intelligence into those products. So that's a good spot. There's a, speaking of automation, There's a Drift bot on there. There's a company called Drift that will allow you to just start communicating with us about what you want, what you're looking for. We can point you in the right direction. You can talk to a salesperson, whatever you want to do. And then, you can get me anywhere. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good about getting back to people. You can catch me on LinkedIn, Patrick McKenna. There's probably a million of us, but look for the guy with the Strike Social in there. And yeah, I mean, I think those are the best places. And of course, I'm on Twitter and all that stuff too. So
absolutely love it. I definitely appreciate the information that you guys are compiling, sharing, and helping entrepreneurs to use to, like I said, to be able to reach that audience. Now, as we wind down, I've got a final question for you because I'm curious to hear your answer. There's a person listening right now who they've been at, what I like to call the precipice of decision. They've listened to you and I chat about this and go, you know what, maybe my product can work. Yes, you know what, my business, it can do it. That's it. I'm drawing the line. Patrick is right. I can make this happen. Yeah, it's going to be some work, but that's okay. It'll be worth it in the end of the day. And they're at that point. Now, like I know, that when we get to those moments of decision, oftentimes we have a companion, and that companion comes in the form of a voice. And it's a voice that reminds us of, well, you remember what happened the last time you tried that? Remember, you tried Facebook. That didn't really work out so well for you. And now you're going to go to YouTube? Are you sure? And all of those things come up. And for some people, they're related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time they're actually going to follow through. It's going to be different for them. They're going to do exactly what you suggest, Patrick. And they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
Well, you got to understand what the platforms are good for, right? Like search is really good for getting you that click into a product purchase, right? That's what it's really good for. YouTube is more of like mid-funnel awareness, right? So you're probably, if you're just starting out, I would start on search. I would start on Facebook, and Facebook would include Instagram if you've got, a product that will resonate there. I would try Facebook and Instagram together. And then you need to study, like the best thing to do is like look at what your competitors are doing, because we all have competitors. And so look at what they're doing and what you think resonates from their message, or maybe you just think they're doing it wrong, and that's fine too. I mean, sometimes that's even better. And I would test it. I would test who you think your audience is, and I would be looking for, me personally, if I was doing it, I would be looking for an immediate satisfaction return out of that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
if you're going to start and you're small and I'm thinking you're thinking, Jay, like it's $1,000 a month budget, something like that. You're trying to grow. That's what I would do. I wouldn't go spend $1,000 on an incredible video and get it on YouTube. Now, having said that, I've seen that work once.
Once.
No, well, I mean more than that, but Dollar Shave Club really built
so good.
I mean, they built the model of one really great video and a product that found a pain in the market. Let's face it, $20 versus $8 or $9 for a razor. That's pretty significant, and they just needed to get that out there. So I've seen that. Now, having said that, they went and raised money off of creating that video. That's what they were showing to the venture capitalists up in San Francisco. So most of us aren't gonna be there. But like as I said, I've seen it happen. But if what we're saying is this new guy's got an idea, study your competitors, look at their messaging, look at where their messaging is. And I would go for try to get an immediate return so that you got another $1,000 to spend the next month, and $2,000 and $3,000, and then go from there.
Absolutely, man. Dollar Shave Club. I just watch their commercials because they're there. And then, was it the Harmon brothers were the potpourri and the purple mattresses, man.
Yep.
Why are they so good? Anyway,
there you go.
And if you can get a video for just $1,000, you're probably done. You're doing good already.
Yeah, they have to give that guy some stuff.
So that would be great. Excellent. I definitely want to say that like I said, I appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate everything that you've shared with us today and taking the time to share your knowledge, wisdom, and insight here with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
Hey, thanks, Jay. It was really nice to be here. I love this stuff. So thanks again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? Well, that means get over to Strike Social. Why? Because you know that you've learned some things, and most importantly, you probably learned that you don't know enough yet. And there's more to go. There's deeper levels. And most importantly, if you can reach that audience at the right price, man, just think what that would mean for your business, for your employees, for the opportunity that you could create around you. At the end of the day, we just heard from Batman, so now let's go use his utility belt. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.